Alright, time to go deeper into this movie, as I am going to do a spoiler review of Age of Ultron. Now, it has been a while since this movie has come out, and some people are going to watch it again. I did. So, because it's so anticipated, I'm going to go into depth with this movie. So, if you haven't seen the film yet, then what the hell are you doing here, watching this video? Get the fudge out. So, there is a spoiler-free review I did already. It's on the description, so go check it out. See the movie, then come back here. You have been warned. So let's get into this. So basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about the plot from the start to finish, then talk about my favorite scenes, things that I liked, things that I don't like, etc. So, here we go. So, the opening action scene where our heroes are in the wintry mountain is well shot. One of the very first shots in this movie is when there's this long tracking shot of our heroes. It zooms from Iron Man doing his thing, it zooms from Captain America doing his thing, then Hawkeye, then Black Widow, then the Hulk, Thor, then suddenly they are close together. And there's this 1 second slow motion indicating that they are the Avengers working together. Then the movie speeds up again and we see our heroes fighting our enemies, and it's just beautiful. Now, we see this type of sequence in the first Avengers where the camera goes into a 360 angle showing all of our heroes, and now we have this, and it's so great seeing this type of sequence again. But then you notice something that is a little off. Iron Man. Now, in the end of Iron Man 3, he blows up all his suits. His Iron Man days are over. And since we have saw that, we wonder to ourselves on how it's going to build up to this movie. But right in the beginning, we see his Iron Man suits all of a sudden, which is awesome, but it would have helped if we see at least a couple of minutes of Tony Stark motivating being Iron Man again. So after that scene, he creates Ultron, and then things go wrong, and now he needs to be stopped. Now, like I said before, James Spader in this movie did a really excellent job as Ultron. You think he's going to be this dark evil robot in this movie. Well, he still is, but we could still fear him. But also, he has these sarcastic jokes, and I find them pretty funny. First he's evil, then there's one moment where he say all these lines where we just smile. Then there's this one scene where him and Andy Serkis have this conversation, and Andy Serkis says that he's associated with Tony Stark, and Ultron gets really mad all of a sudden, and he sliced off his arm, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that." And the way he says it is so sarcastic, and that is what I like, because we need a villain that doesn't just stand around and frown throughout the rest of the movie and don't mean anything. However, as much as Ultron is pretty funny in this film, I think Loki did it a little better, especially to the point where he tries to calm down the Hulk, and the Hulk just beats the shit out of him. And it would have been nice if we go into a little depth of why Ultron wants to wipe out civilization. When he gets created, right off the bat, he goes into this evil mode, making robots, going through body to body, so it would have been nice if we saw some motivation, because I felt like it was kind of rushed. The rest of the characters did fantastic. I mean, there were times that we see them fighting crime, saving the day, then there are times that they're just relaxing on a chair, laughing and drinking, just to show us that they have a life. One of the pretty great scenes is when the Avengers take turns lifting up Thor's Mjolnir, his hammer, and Iron Man, War Machine, they just couldn't do it. Captain America, he was able to pick it up pretty closely, and then the look on Thor's face is slightly funny when he sees that happen. And then later in the movie, along comes Vision, played by Paul Bettany, who did a great job. And he comes and he picks up the hammer with no struggle. And when me and my friends, the audience, saw this, they were like, wow. And then right after that, Thor makes this face and just follows him. I guess Vision can rule Asgard now. But the thing that I really like about Vision is the way that he's built up. And finally, we get to see him on screen, and we have no idea who we are dealing with. We don't know if he's the enemy or something, but then we know that he wants to help the Avengers and has some wise common sense than Ultron. The character development in this movie is well established. We first see our heroes with our own movies, and now they are together, and then they are together again going through some stuff. You see what Iron Man is going through, and all he wants to do is to protect the world because Scarlet Witch gave him this vision of all the Avengers killed off. We see Captain America with his broken shield and ask him why he couldn't save him. And when stuff goes wrong, you see what he's going through. The Avengers are at heat, so they need a place to hide and rest. And that is when we see Hawkeye and his family. You think he is some guy who is just an agent, but the scene where he's with his wife and kids proves to us that he's more than just that, and that he's more human rather than some video game character. And then you got the relationship with Natasha Romanoff and Bruce Banner, which some people may consider to be cringeworthy because it doesn't look real, it doesn't make any sense, etc. But for me, I didn't have that problem. I thought it was okay, but tragic. I mean, look at the Hulk. He's a mess. He's a guy who is not 100% happy, and all he wants is happiness. But he's afraid to be together because of his situation. Black Widow had her own thing in the past, but she's not gonna let that come between her and Banner. But Banner is afraid because of what can happen, and after having that scene in Africa, he goes on a rampage. By the way, the scene with him and the Hulkbuster was epic. The part where the Hulkbuster pinned him to the ground and starts punching him was pretty funny. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. So after all that, you got the ending where Ultron has this device underneath a town, and the whole town literally rises up, and shit has gone real. So the battle scene with Ultron and his minions were epic, even though there could have been more scenes with Ultron and Vision. I felt like they were sort of left out in the part of the final scene, except for the ending where they have their final scene together and Vision killing Ultron with his forehead cannon. And then of course you got Quicksilver getting killed, trying to save Hawkeye and a kid about to be shot by a rain of bullets from a plane. I sort of predict that Quicksilver was going to die because two things. Number one, the trailer. You see Scarlet Witch screaming, and then you watch the movie and Quicksilver says to her that he's got to do something, leaving them both separated. And that's when I had this feeling that he is going to die in this film. And another thing is that there's this conflict between two studios. There is Quicksilver from X-Men Days of Future Past, and then you got Quicksilver in this film. And Joss Whedon had to do something about this. So I guess he had to kill him off, which was acceptable, but it kinda sucks too, but oh well. But the character development with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch is handled well. I mean, these two have been used and controlled for too long, and then they have Ultron, then all of a sudden, they are against him after learning that he was gonna wipe out civilization. And there is this scene where Hawkeye gives this speech to Scarlet Witch about being an Avenger. And that is really handled well, and it was cool having this transfer, being dynamic characters. And it's cool seeing people who are once enemies being good guys. But you know what's weird? These guys were lovers in Godzilla, and now they're brother and sister in this movie. This kind of reminds me of The Fault in Our Stars and the Divergent series, where in The Fault in Our Stars you got Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort together, and then in Divergent you got them being brother and sister. Then you got the Hulk abandoning Black Widow. The last shot you see him in a cockpit of the plane, and then you got Nick Fury, which I totally forgot was in the film because he doesn't show up until like in the middle of the film. He has his scenes there and then tells Black Widow that there's a smashed plane and he doesn't know if it's the Hulk or not. So to me, there is some tragedy in this movie. These two want to be together, but because of a major flaw, it just couldn't work. Thor flies away, we don't see him until Thor Ragnarok. Then you got Captain America and Iron Man being bros, getting along. And it's interesting because you got Captain America Civil War, and these guys are supposed to be beefing. So you have no idea what caused them to be against each other. If the movie had ended with them arguing or something like that, it will be less intriguing for the next film. But to have the film end getting along is something to think about for the next film, and I just can't wait. And then you got War Machine, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Falcon. They form up, and it looks like they are part of the Avengers now. And then you got the end credit scene in the movie where Thanos picks up his glove and he's like, alright, I'm gonna do it myself. For so long, we have seen Thanos sitting on a chair doing nothing, and we see him in the credits of the Avengers, then in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he orders Ronan to bring him some orb, and he just sits there. And then you got this end credits scene from this movie, and you just wonder what will happen in the Avengers Infinity War. In 2 parts. Shit's gonna go down. So that is it with the Avengers Age of Ultron. I love this movie for the most part. A couple of problems, but majority takes all. And it's one of the best movies I've seen this year. Great dialogue, great acting, great action scenes. Definitely a movie that I will watch again without hesitation. And definitely something that I will watch on Blu-ray. So that is my spoiler review of Age of Ultron. Thank you for watching. More reviews on the way.